Every morning, whether you're conscious of it or not, you begin a negotiation with the day. It's subtle, but it's decisive. The thoughts you allow into your mind as you wake up, they don't just shape your mood. They shape your perception, your willingness to engage with reality. And perhaps the most pivotal thought you can entertain at the beginning of your day is this: today I am responsible for how I show up, not for what happens. It sounds simple. It isn't. You see, most people drift into the morning under the illusion that circumstances have more power than they do, that the day has already been defined by external factors. The weather, the news, the argument from last night, the task list they resent, the emails they haven't answered. And in that moment, without realizing it, they surrender their agency. They quietly hand over authorship of the day to forces they can't control. And by doing that, they prime themselves to become reactive, not intentional. That posture becomes the architecture of their behavior. But what if you reverse that equation? What if, instead of waking up and mentally scanning for everything outside your control, you made a deliberate commitment to take ownership of one thing: how you show up, not how people treat you, not how smoothly things go, not how successful the outcomes are, just your presence, your discipline, your courage, your attention. That single point of focus redirects your entire relationship with the day. Responsibility in this context is not about control. It's about authorship. And there's a profound psychological difference between the two. When people say things like, "Don't worry, just let go of control," they're usually advising resignation. But the reality is, you should give up control because most of life doesn't care what you want. Outcomes are unpredictable. People are inconsistent. The market is volatile. Health fails. Systems collapse. That's not pessimism, that's realism. But here's the flip side: you have immense control over how you face it all. And that's where responsibility becomes your source of power. In existential philosophy, thinkers like Sartre and Kierkegaard explored the terrifying but liberating idea that human beings are fundamentally free, not in the sense of doing whatever they want, but in the sense that they are always responsible for their response. Always. Even in suffering, even in failure, even in defeat, you retain that final space of freedom. Viktor Frankl saw this clearly in the concentration camps. Everything can be taken from a man, except the last of the human freedoms: the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Now think about that in practical terms. You wake up late. The morning is already behind. Your body is tired. Maybe something heavy is weighing on your mind. The loss of something, the fear of something, that's real. I'm not suggesting you pretend it isn't. But you still have a choice. You can collapse into the discomfort and allow it to shape the rest of the day. Or you can decide, today I will show up with resolve. I will meet this day with whatever strength I have, and that strength will be mine, not borrowed from circumstance. And here's the strange thing: once you do that, once you make the decision to orient yourself toward the day with responsibility rather than expectation, your perception of control paradoxically increases. You stop wasting psychic energy trying to fix everything outside yourself. You stop waiting for the day to go your way. You stop making your effort contingent on reward. Instead, you place the locus of control squarely where it belongs: in your capacity to engage, to persist, to hold the line, to speak the truth. You become, psychologically speaking, anti-fragile, because now your worth isn't tethered to results. It's rooted in character. That's a very different way to live. This shift isn't motivational fluff. It's a fundamental transformation of your cognitive framework. Clinical psychologists will tell you, and rightly so, that helplessness breeds depression. When you believe that your actions don't matter, when you perceive yourself as a passive object in a hostile or indifferent world, your spirit deteriorates. But when you affirm your responsibility, even for just one day, even for just your response to the world, you regain the sense that you are an actor, not merely acted upon. That shift alone can elevate your entire emotional state. You begin to move differently, speak differently, work differently, because now you're living from the inside out. And that's what people often miss. Responsibility is not a burden. It's a bridge. It's the narrow path between chaos and order. It's what turns noise into purpose. You take responsibility for how you show up, and suddenly the smallest actions begin to matter again. Making your bed is no longer a chore. It's an act of defiance against disorder. Responding to an email becomes an act of respect. Holding your tongue when you're angry becomes an act of restraint. Saying what needs to be said, even when it's uncomfortable, that becomes an act of courage. And when you stack those acts moment after moment, the day transforms. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Now, that doesn't mean you'll feel good all the time. You won't. There are mornings when you'll wake up and the last thing you'll feel is empowered. You might feel afraid. You might feel invisible. You might feel broken. That's the human condition. But you still get to decide how you will move. And that decision, the act of stepping forward anyway, is what gives meaning to your suffering. It's what shapes your identity. And eventually, it's what shapes your destiny. If you want to become stronger, wiser, more grounded, start here. Start with the discipline of showing up, not once a month, not when it's easy. Every morning, anchor yourself in responsibility before the noise of the world floods your brain. Say it out loud if you have to. Today, I take responsibility for how I show up. And then live like you mean it. The beauty of this is that it doesn't require talent. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require luck. It requires only that you accept the terrifying gift of freedom. And then act accordingly. That's the path. That's where transformation begins. So when you wake up tomorrow, before you touch your phone, before you start thinking about everything you have to do, stop, breathe, and tell yourself, today, I am responsible for how I show up, not for what happens. Because the moment you reclaim that responsibility, you reclaim your day. And if you reclaim enough days like that, you reclaim your life. There's something sobering about the gap between who you are and who you could be. It's not just theoretical. It's felt deeply. And one of the most potent realizations you can have, especially first thing in the morning, is this. If I stay disciplined today, I become someone I respect tomorrow. That single line, if internalized, can shift the very axis of your life. Because you already know what happens when you don't stay disciplined. You've lived it. We all have. You delay the task, you justify the distraction, you rationalize the indulgence. And then you sit in that hollow space afterward, filled not just with regret, but with contempt. It's not the world that condemns you in those moments. It's you. Your own conscience becomes your accuser, and it whispers, you could have done better. You knew better. Now that voice, contrary to popular opinion, isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that knows your potential. It's the ideal trying to pull you upward. And it doesn't speak in shame, it's in truth. The reason it hurts is because you know it's right. Discipline, then, is not a punishment you inflict on yourself to conform to some rigid standard. It's the mechanism through which your future self calls you forward. And when you ignore that call, the consequence isn't just failure, it's self-alienation. You become someone you no longer fully trust. You start making promises to yourself that you don't believe you'll keep. And once that credibility erodes, your ability to act with conviction dissolves with it. So when I say, if I stay disciplined today, I become someone I respect tomorrow, I'm not appealing to some abstract concept of success or productivity. I'm appealing to something far deeper. The relationship you have with yourself, because that's what discipline ultimately builds at self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of everything. Without it, you won't sustain any real growth. You'll sabotage, you'll doubt, you'll fold the moment things get hard. But with it, you become dangerous in the best sense of the word. And this is important. Discipline is not intensity. Anybody can be intense for a moment. You can pull an all-nighter, you can have a productive Monday, you can commit to a diet for 3 days. But that doesn't transform you, because transformation is not found in short bursts of effort. It's forged in consistency. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. And these votes are cumulative. That's why it matters what you do today, not next week, not when you feel ready, today. Because the repetition of daily action is what wires your nervous system. It's what programs your identity. You're training your brain to believe, this is who I am. And your brain takes that seriously. You become, in a very real and neurological sense, what you repeatedly do. So the question is, what habits are you rehearsing every day? Are they making you someone you admire or someone you excuse? Let me be clear, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent with what matters. That means you don't need to do everything right. just do the next right thing. That could be showing up to the gym, sitting down to write, turning off your phone when you're with your family, choosing to listen instead of react, resisting the urge to complain. Tiny moments. But in those moments, you either practice integrity or you practice avoidance. You reinforce discipline or you reinforce chaos. And over time, the consequences of those small decisions are massive, not because they change the world instantly, but because they change you. And when you change, your entire orientation to the world shifts. You stop seeing discipline as a sacrifice and you start seeing it as alignment. You realize that the more you stay faithful to your values in small things, the more power you gain in larger things. There's a deep psychological truth here, Egg. When you become someone you respect, you begin to live with internal coherence. And coherence breeds strength. You're no longer divided. You're not torn between the version of you who knows what's right and the version of you who keeps making excuses. You become singular in purpose. And when that happens, when your intention and your action line up, you move through the world with a kind of quiet confidence that can't be faked. Others notice it too. People can feel when someone is disciplined, not because they talk about it, but because they carry themselves with dignity. Their words match their behavior. Their presence speaks louder than their achievements. That kind of integrity is magnetic. It's rare. And it starts not with some dramatic event, but with a decision you make every morning. Today, I will act in a way that earns my own respect. Think about that for a second. What would your life look like if that became your baseline? Because here's the truth that most people avoiding, no one else can give you the respect you're seeking, validate you, they can admire you, they can praise you. But if you don't respect yourself, it all rings hollow. You know this, you've achieved things before that looked impressive from the outside, but inside you felt like a fraud. Why? Because you know whether you earned it, you know whether you stayed true to what you're capable of, or whether you cut corners. Discipline is how you eliminate that disconnect. It's how you become someone who's integrated. Not perfect, but whole. And when you live like that, your sense of identity stabilizes. You're no longer chasing affirmation because you've already affirmed yourself through action. You're no longer dependent on external rewards because the reward is built into the way you live. And that's the paradox. The more you orient your life around discipline, the more freedom you actually experience. Because now you're not a slave to impulse. You're not constantly at war with yourself. You're not weighed down by the burden of unfinished promises and unkept commitments. You're free because you trust yourself. And trust, when earned internally, becomes your most powerful asset. So when you wake up and remind yourself, if I stay disciplined today, I become someone I respect tomorrow. You're not just giving yourself a motivational boost, you're articulating the truth of human development. You're recognizing that every day is an opportunity to build or to erode your future self. And the choice is never neutral. You're always moving in one direction or the other. Let that truth guide your mornings. Let it push you to show up, even when it's hard, to persist even when it's inconvenient, to hold the line even when no one's watching. Because in the end, it's not the world that decides who you become. It's you. Through repetition, through responsibility, through discipline, the kind of person you are tomorrow is quietly shaped by what you choose today. And once you understand that, you'll realize there are no small days, there are no throwaway moments. Every day you hold the pen, every day you write the story. So write something you'll be proud to read.